All right, guys, this is Strong Principles. I am Rob Delacruz.
I'm Larry Medina.
And I'm Zach Bragg.
And on today, we're going to go into what is some of the buzzwords that you'll hear. You'll hear it either on podcast, online, you'll see it on social media. We've heard it before from videos and CDs back in the day. So it's just going to be like a little bit of nerding out in programming. Me and Zach will go back and forth, and I know Larry got a bunch to say about it. So the first one we're going to go into, what is actual muscle confusion? So back in the day, we would hear, there was a real popular program, it was P90X. You remember that, Larry? Yes,
I do remember
they're real
that,
popular. Yeah. And so they touted this muscle confusion, all right? And so what happens a lot of times, you see there's a little bit of truth in things, and then there's like a bunch of false statements that are in it. So, and muscle confusion is far superior than doing the same thing over and over and all. It's not. But what it is their definition of muscle confusion is you're doing something different all the time. It's like a lot of variations all the time. So it's kind of confusing the muscle. So the muscle needs to stimulate and grow. They're kind of missing a few points on it. One is if you constantly change things, strength training and conditioning too, but strength training especially is a skill. So if you're just kind of moving around and doing all different things, you get good at none of it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's kind of like the first thing. The other thing is there's something called the repeated bout effect. And so the first time you back squat, you're sore as shit. And then the next time you go, you're a little less sore. And then the next week you go, so it's a repeated bout effect. If you back squat one day and then the other day and then the next week, and like you haven't back squatted in 3 weeks, you back squat, you're going through the same thing again and again. One is you're not working on a skill, and two, you're constantly breaking down and getting sore. And so then your ability to progress is not going to be there.
I think muscle confusion theory got confused because they saw there is a benefit to learning a new exercise and trying a new movement. And what happens when you try a new movement? Just like Rob said, you become sore. You're like, oh, wow, this really works. But what people don't realize is muscle growth occurs after the first several weeks of doing a new movement. So it takes a couple weeks at that movement before muscle growth really even starts to occur. And then also what happens when you start to just try to do a bunch of different movements all the time and you're never working on any one thing, your technique sucks at all of them because you never worked on technique on any of them. So there is some pieces of it that we can use. Like, yes, you want to variate the exercises and learn new exercises, but it takes several weeks to master an exercise and before muscle growth starts to occur. So I think it just got a little confused, and it's just a theory. It's not scientifically based. So,
bro science.
I don't know if I would say bro science.
Yeah,
I'd just be like, and what it is too. It's also, it seems fun to constantly do something different.
Yeah,
and it is fun. I've done it.
It is fun because then you're like, okay, what's the challenge today? It gets you nervous. It gets you excited.
Yep.
Versus like, oh yeah, I'm just going to do a back squat today.
Yes.
Right.
Correct.
Again.
exactly.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the next one, which actually is not that far off of, it was made popular in the CrossFit world, is constantly varied. So they say not random. So muscle confusion kind of seems more random.
Yeah.
And constantly varied, they say not random, but it's still pretty random.
Yeah.
They're constantly varied. The same thing happens if you don't have progressions of exercises. Strength is mostly neurological, and so then you're going to run into not practicing those movements enough. So then you're not going to be able to get stronger at them over time. Both of these work really well to anybody in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And also they work really well to an advanced athlete in the beginning because it's novelty.
I was going to say that like it tricks you, right? But it's like, I feel like it's that middle person that's just like, they're not in the beginning phase, but they're not in the advanced phase. Like that middle person is going to get screwed.
Yep.
Because they're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And one thing too is if you're not a good mover, then you're just going to run into problems because you're not practicing any particular exercise or movement pattern over and over enough. Again, it's like it's all over the place.
And I think that's where constantly varied got messed up too, is like, yes, variation is good, variation of a specific movement pattern is good because it can benefit and get you better at that movement pattern, not just varying 1,000 different exercises with 1,000 different movement patterns. So if I want you to get better at a row, or if I want to get you better at a squat, yeah, there's hundreds of different ways we can vary a squat. But if I'm doing it with the intention of making you better at a squat, then those variations can be beneficial. But again, just like muscle confusion, I think the term got confused and a little bit too stretched out to where it was just, we were just looking for novelty and constantly changing it so that we'd get that short-term effect rather than actually getting better in exercise and getting stronger.
Bought into it too much.
Yeah, just stretched out too much. Yeah.
And so then there's something called planned variations, and we use that a lot. So now you do want to vary exercises, but you got to plan. And a lot of times what we do is let's use the back squat. The back squat's going to be used every Monday or whatever day, and it's going to be progressed over the weeks. And then we go ahead and we do a push-pull. It could be any kind of vertical, a bar row, bench press. We're going to vary those. So we have one that we're going to keep and progress. The other ones we're going to vary. And you can progress them by making them go from the least complex version to the most complex version. And that's how you can get a progression too with that. But it's planned over the weeks. It's just not just kind of randomly put in there.
Yeah.
And you're doing the muscle groups, and it's not just the muscle groups or the exercise, it's the movement pattern. So you got variation because you're changing the exercise, but we're still doing the same movement pattern every Monday or every two. So your body's getting used to it. It's building strength. It's having a progression over time. Progressive overload when it comes to strength training and conditioning is probably the number one aspect. And the only way to do that is have either progressions of the same exercises or planned variations.
So planned variations is what constantly varied probably should have been, or what they were trying to get it to be, but it got confused. And so planned variation actually leads to progression because, like Rob said, you're just working on that movement pattern, progressing it, getting stronger at it. So much better way to put it. That term fits a lot better with what a proper program should be.
Yeah, so there's a principle we'll go into. So it's called the SAID principle, SAID. So it's specific adaptation to an imposed demand. So the body is going to, a specific demand, it's going to work towards that, getting better at it. So if you back squat every Monday and you progress it properly, that's the imposed demand. So it's going to progress week after week after week until there is a ceiling and a limiter. Now, where you run into, where people don't understand, because this is where program gets really important, is there's specific exercises that can kind of trickle down to a lot of other exercises. So for instance, if the back squat is good and your form is good and your movement quality is really good, then that back squat, that upper level strength can move to wall balls, can kind of move into a front squat, can move into a goblet squat, can move into other things. Now, the better you are at a back squat, which I'm not saying this all, but most likely a heavy goblet squat's pretty easy. But a heavy goblet squat is not going to help a back squat.
Okay, but not even in the sense of understanding the load and.
Yes, the warm up it could help, but eventually you can't load it enough to translate.
That makes sense. Yep.
On there, so there's some exercises that have a little more of a hierarchy, and now just saying that there's a caveat to it is that as long as that's a really good exercise for you, and if that's not a good exercise for you, like what we were talking with Wendy earlier, then it's less effective, and then that's kind of negated. So
to stick to the goblet squat, like in that scenario, is it good more for the form, understanding movement, the movement pattern, but also understanding that, hey, you should be in this position at all times.
Yeah, and the goblet squat, it's in front of you, so that demand it's trying to drag you forward, so that is allowing your body to go straight up. Any weight in front of the body usually gives you more of an upright chest.
Vertical, yeah.
Yep.
Versus weight behind, there's a little bit more of a hinge that occurs within the squat.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so that the SAID principle is very specific, and it's very known in strength conditioning. If you want to get better at the squat pattern, then you go ahead and you do planned variations. You want to get better at the back squat, you got a back squat.
You got a back squat.
Like there's just no way around it.
Yeah.
It's just, you have to do those exercises if you really want to see good progression on. The next one we were going to go into, work capacity. CrossFit made that kind of famous. The more work capacity you have across modal domain and broad. And they were right about work capacity. The more work capacity you have, the better you are to deal with things like just moving through it. So their work capacity is like the person that can go fastest or do the most reps over time, kind of. True work capacity means your ability to move through a lot of different movement patterns and being able to do that over and over. That's true work capacity. So for instance, like being able to push a sled, and you can do kettlebell swings, and you pick up sandbag and you walk with it, and you get on a bike. That's like work capacity. It's like the ability to be able to move through a lot of different exercises or movement patterns.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, and I think where a lot of programs got lost with work capacity is they were just seeing how much you could do versus actually skill development and getting better at those movements. So it's like, if you use the analogy of a contractor or somebody who, whatever, if you paint a wall, right? It's like, all right, how many walls can you paint? Well, that's never going to get you better at painting that wall. If you get the skill developed of painting that wall, you're actually going to be faster at painting the wall, right? If you get that skill better. And so it's the same thing with work capacity. If you get the skills better, your work capacity improves. Now, there is some level of having to put in work in order to get better. How well do you use oxygen? How well do you use ATP? And then get stronger and get faster. But I think that got a little bit messed up somewhere in there where we stopped working on developing skills, stopped working on getting stronger, and we were just focused on how much work can we accomplish?
Just going at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because back to that middle person, right? Beginner and the advanced, they're going to be okay for the most part.
The beginner's going to see good results. The advanced has got all this movement efficiency, so they're going to see some results.
Yeah, but I'm even thinking like so if you're in that middle range where like, okay, you have some strength, etc. And then I go in to do a handstand push-up for failure, it's probably not good because like I'm gonna eat it probably. And by the way, I had a friend who like when we were doing CrossFit back then, they were like, yeah, we're gonna do handstand push-ups. We're just gonna use the wall. It was not a good scene.
As soon as he went upside down, he probably went right down.
It just awkwardly landed on his head. But I was like, okay, that's not good, because like the advanced person is gonna know how to roll out of that.
Right.
The other person, me, not going to know how to roll out of that. We're just going to eat it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you didn't develop the skill.
Well, the deal is you're getting into an environment in a situation that is inappropriate for an individual because there's not enough strength development and skill development on that exercise.
Yeah.
And then there's also not enough development in an individual to understand how to keep their composure and rest. And because a lot of people are very unaware, and we were talking about how people are unaware of what they look like. People are unaware of what they're feeling. If you take an advanced athlete, they'll take a couple of seconds rest before they go upside down because they know their shoulders are fatigued and there's a lactate buildup through the system where if they go upside down, they could possibly miss a rep or whatever it is. An unaware individual is usually someone that doesn't have that much experience. They're like, oh, I think I'm fine. And he's upside down. He got no shoulders.
Yeah.
So I take this example and I give to someone. So if you see an advanced athlete, and this is kind of like in a CrossFit room / whatever, but most advanced
performance.
Athletes will do, performance. You see them snatch or under fatigue. If they do a bad rep, they will quickly just back off.
Yeah.
And they'll wait because they don't want a bad rep. 2, they don't want to hurt themselves. And 3, it's not efficient at all.
Yeah.
You see someone with less experience, they do that bad rep, they go back and try to grab it again and hit the back. And I was like, it's not magically just going to get better.
Yeah. So
they don't have the acuity. So that's just putting them in the wrong environment.
Yeah. Learn to walk away.
And so speaking on that is, so what comes with, the work capacity, and it's going to build on what Zach was saying. So there's something called movement economy. People don't understand that at all. Is so the better you move, the better mover you are, the more efficient your movement is. One, it's more effective. 2, it uses less energy. And so like if you are doing movements and you're using them in like a conditioning workout and you're moving through quick, the better you move, the less energy you're using. Sometimes that gets masked if something's not a lot of reps or a long period of time. But if something goes a longer period of time, you start seeing people with their movement economy not being good, which their ranges of motion are not good, or they just not good movers, you see them fatigue really quickly. So that's the other thing, is working on the skills, like Zach said, is putting a lot of time into exercises away from anything that looks like fatigue.
Yeah. The economy is how much energy it's going to cost you to maintain a performance level. So it's kind of like fuel economy in a car. You could think of it like that, you know, depending on what the demand of what you're doing is. You know, if you're in a car, and just like you get less fuel economy driving in the city versus driving on the highway because you're going in a straight line. So it's kind of the same. It's how much it's taking away from you versus not how much output you're putting in, but how much it's taking away from you. And so skill development is huge. Getting stronger is huge. Building a better aerobic base. It's how much oxygen it's going to take away, how much ATP it's going to take away. So movement economy is just the ability to not have energy be taken away from you over a long period of a workout, or whatever the demand of the workout puts on you.
Yeah, I mean, it's perfectly explained. If you take two people and they both have the same VO2, Larry, and they're both about in the same place aerobically and strength-wise, but one's kind of a bad mover, they're real tight, they never work on their mobility, it's all over the place, and the other one's a really clean mover, you're going to see one just go far and the other one not. Yeah. And a lot of times I tell people, like, oh, they'll talk and they need to work on their aerobic system. They need to be better conditioned. And most of the time, you don't have to do any of that. You just got to become a better mover. You need to spend more time on doing your movements away from being under fatigue and getting better at it.
So I feel like in that same vein, it's almost like you have to understand that sometimes you have to take a step back to get better. So again, don't compare yourself to a year ago, right? Like if in the back squat, like let's just say my form is shit. But I'm squatting 405. It's probably not gonna happen, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah. So like let's say I'm squatting like a stupid number, and but my form is awful. And then today I'm like, hey, my movement is way better. I'm not hurting, but I'm at like 350, right, or whatever. And the whole thing is like, I think in the last episode we're talking about like, don't compare yourself ever, you know, to anything except for yourself. And also like, how do you feel, etc. But I guess in a long-winded way of saying, sometimes you have to take a step back to be able to move forward.
Yeah, and I mean, I think all ages should do this, but even most of the time as you get older, you become more aware of it. It's all about, are you becoming a better mover? Are you always working on becoming a better mover? Getting stronger is great, but how about being strong and then becoming even a better mover? You don't have to get any stronger. You become a better mover, you're stronger.
You're stronger, yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, makes sense.
I think with all of these, with all these like buzzwords or terms that we're throwing out, it's about being able to kind of sift through them and understand what the original intention was, or be able to sift through them and understand what it wasn't meant to be. Yeah. So like, you know, with constantly varied or work capacity or muscle confusion, like there's parts of it that you can use, and there's parts of it that make sense if done correctly, but they just get overstretched, they get overreached, and then people take that and just run with it, and then, you know, get the completely wrong intention of what it was meant to be.
It almost sounds like that's their marketing tool, right? So essentially, right?
Yes,
it's good marketing to say like, this is the buzzword, I'm going to latch onto that, and then I'm going to go ahead and make a whole product based around just this one thing.
And then you see it on social media and you see it everywhere, and then you run with it.
Yeah. And now, like, I mean, the latest one is a good example of that is working to failure.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's the latest one right now.
Yeah. I have a friend of mine who hit me up on that. They're like, what if we just bench one time until failure? And I'm like, no.
We don't, the amount of times that someone should go to, it's so rare. Most people don't even understand what failure is. Going to failure means there's a lot of mechanical breakdown. Better reps are just more effective reps. If you can go and you're so advanced that you can go all the way to your body's basically starting to break down as far as being able to do that movement, but your movement mechanics are breaking down, have at it. But that's a very rare breed.
Yeah, so it's funny because I didn't realize it was like a new thing that was coming, because like literally
because it's all in the research.
Yeah. And there is a bodybuilder that's known for this.
Yeah, Mike Metzer and then Dorian Yates, and what they would do is one was called heavy duty, and the other one was like called blood and guts, and those guys, they would just do like one set to failure, but they would do a bunch of warm-up sets too. And they did a lot of their stuff on machines too. So that's a little different. Like, so if I'm going to failure with banded bicep curls, that's huge different than going to failure on a deadlift that can mechanically cause a bunch of issues.
Or back squat.
Yeah.
100%.
So like, you got to understand what you're hearing and what are you listening to. Also, when you go to failure, you're crushing your nervous system.
Yeah.
So what are you going to be able to do next day or two? You go to failure on the wrong exercises or you do it the wrong way. So like, consistency is more important. Leaving a few reps in the tank, knowing you could do more, is always going to benefit you the next day to be able to train or the day after.
100%.
Yeah, the one, you know, as we're talking through this and injuries and this, that, the other, like the one person that comes to my mind is Ronnie Coleman. Yeah. You know, we're like insanely strong, insanely jacked, potentially the best bodybuilder of all time, right? And I'm not into bodybuilding, but I'm assuming like he is, right? Because that's the one guy that I know besides Arnold.
Yep. Yeah.
And so Ronnie Coleman, but he can't walk today.
Yeah. So I'll get into him a little bit. So he had a huge powerlifting background before he came in. One of the strongest bodybuilders. A few things happened to him. Yes, he did hurt himself. 2, he had a whole bunch of botched back surgeries. He would still be having some issues, but not as many issues as he had. Like a bunch of botched back surgeries. So that really set him back really bad.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
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 Okay. All right. So, but a lot of his problems were because of how heavy he was going.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, you know, I get that he had bad back surgeries. However,
he still needed a back surgery.
Yes. Right. And the reason is because, you know, and it's unfair, right? Because like he was going for Mr. Olympia. It's a thing that he was striving for. But for the normal person, you know, obviously that's where like I always think of like, okay, how much is too much, right? Like we should definitely try and be healthy, you know, in the sport of life. But I don't know, like
being strong is never a detriment. Chasing strength forever is got to be detrimental. So you got to be kind of real careful about it. Like you want to be strong, but you can't always chase that top level strength to get more. You got to eventually bring it back and like, hey, maybe I do more quality reps at certain percentages. I'm still strong, but I'm always not going for this top level all the time because all adaptation comes at a cost. And if you try to put too much into it, it's going to come at a bigger cost to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully everybody has a little bit of a better understanding of what these buzzwords mean or what these terms are in fitness. And I think the biggest takeaways is being able to sift through them, you know, not falling absolutely in love with anyone and overstretching it to where you lose what the intention of it was, but rather just using every single one in a progressive way and using every single one practically and using every single one safely and smartly. But yeah, I think that's the biggest takeaway is just not overstretching any single one.
Yeah, 100%. No, because we're not saying that we don't use some.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's like certain intents. You just want to get wrapped up with them.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
All right,
Appreciate
guys.
it, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys. This has been Strong Principles.